Hey everyone, it's Emily from Smart Edition Academy. Today we're going to be taking the T7 practice test specifically for the math section together. Now, if you are just now studying for the T7, or maybe you've taken the T6 before and you're wondering what the difference is, before we dive into this practice test very quickly, I'm just going to give you some of the information of what some of the differentiators are, just so you know what to expect. We're also going to see some of these differences together throughout this test, so I'll be sure to point them out when they appear. I'm going to dive in here and I'm going to show it all to you as it presents itself on this test. This is a pretty realistic practice test. I think you guys are going to quite enjoy it because this is going to give you a really good idea of what the real T7 math section is actually going to look like. The last thing that I'm going to point out, and again, we will see examples of this in this test, is that the T6 used to be only multiple choice questions, meaning you had one question and there was 4 options, A, B, C, or D. One of those was the correct answer. Now in the T7, multiple choice is still primarily what you're going to see in terms of a question type. However, they are also including fill-in-the-blank questions as well as ordered response. So what an ordered response means is that you're going to have 4, 5, or 6 options, and it's going to say something like, order these fractions from least to greatest. And you're going to have 4, 5, 6 types of fractions in front of you, and you're going to have to put them in order from least to greatest. Now, you also don't get partial points for this. You either get them in order from least to greatest, and all of them are right and where they should be, and you get the answer correct. If one of them is out of order, you don't get any points for that. So, without further ado, this is how this test is going to work. I'm going to show you the question on the screen. I'm going to give you a moment to look at the question and the answers. It would be awesome if you had like a scratch piece of paper and you wrote down, question 1, A, B, whatever it is that you're writing down, and then we're going to go through what the correct answer is, okay? So feel free to also pause and watch this video as much as you like. Definitely share it with a friend who's also studying for the TEAS. And without further ado, let's go. Let's take this T7 math practice test. Okay, question number 1. Find the median for the data set. I'm going to give you guys a few seconds here. The answer is C, 22.5. And here is how we got that answer. The correct solution is 22.5. The data set is written in this following order. The middle 2 numbers are 22 and 23, and the mean of these numbers is 22.5. Okay. Next question. The graph shows the amount of rainfall in inches for 12 days. Which statement is true for the line graph? I'm going to. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it down here so you guys can see all 4 options. Is it A, it rained more than 1.5 inches more than half of the days? The average amount of rainfall was 1 inch. It rained every day. Or the amount of rainfall steadily increased throughout the days. And remember, you are looking to see what statement about this graph is true. If you answered C, it rained every day, that would be correct. According to the graph, it did in fact rain every day for 12 days because the line never crosses the 0, which is true. So for the T7, you want to make sure that you definitely understand how to read a graph, whether it's a line graph, whether it's a set of numbers, whether it is a pie graph. You want to be able to look at a graph and know what it is saying and understand how to pull data or information out of that so that you can correctly answer these questions. Okay, question number 3. Megan served a dinner party while at work and earned a 22% tip from the customers. If Megan received $16.50 as her tip, what was the customer's bill? What I think is really cool about the Smart Edition Academy TEAS course, as well as just this TEAS practice test that you can find linked below, is that when you're taking the math test, it's specifically telling you what question category this is. So what's cool about this is when you are at the end of the test, the diagnostic report is actually going to break that down by category and say, hey, okay, well, you got 54 of the questions related to ratios, proportions, and percentages correct, whereas you got 100% on dividing fractions by a fraction. So it really allows you to see what you're working on and where your struggle point is. So for this particular question, the answer is C, $75. And this is the math that you would use to get to that. So the customer's bill is $75 because if you take $16.50 and you multiply that by 100 and then you divide that by 22, being that it's the 22% tip, you see that the bill was $75. And you can also solve this by essentially creating a proportion, which is what they did here. Okay, question number 4 is also on ratios, proportions, and percentages. It's kind of similar to what we just did here. The number 20 is approximately 15% of what value? And again, you can also use a proportion to answer this question. And if you got A, 133, you would be correct. So you would divide 20 by the decimal equivalent of 15, which is 0.15, to solve for the value. So 20 divided by 0.15 equals 133. 0.33, which can then be rounded to 133. Okay, here is a standard of measurement questions. Convert 2.5 miles to feet. And you need to know how to convert from one to the other in order to be able to answer these questions correctly. For this answer, if you said D, 13,200 feet, you would be correct. Okay. So it's important to know that 1 mile equals 1,760 yards, which is equivalent to 5,280 feet. So that's why you see that number here, 5280. That's because we know that 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. And then you set up the problem to 2.5 times 5,280 to get 13,200. Okay, here's an example of a math word problem. A doctor writes a prescription for 0.5 liters of liquid medicine to a patient. How many milliliters will the medicine bottle be filled with? Okay. And if you got A, 500 milliliters, you are correct. The medicine bottle would have 500 milliliters because of liquid medicine, because 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters. And in this case, they're talking about just 0.5, which is half. So you would just take that 1,000 milliliter and divide it by 2 to get your answer. But if you don't know that there is 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter, this would be a very difficult question to solve. So again, know your conversions. So I'm going to give you a chance to work out this problem. I know this is a multi-step problem, so I'm going to give you guys a few seconds. Feel free to pause this video if I'm going too fast, and then you can hit your spacebar when you're ready to keep testing with us. Okay, so for question number 7 on polynomials, the correct answer is C. I'm going to scroll down here so you can see how that is worked out. I'm going to zoom in my screen here so you can see exactly how the problem was worked out. Okay, let's keep going. Number 8, this is decimals and fractions. So this would go under the numbers and algebra category. The question is asking, convert 1/8 to a decimal and then round to the nearest hundredth. Okay, the correct answer is B, 0.13. So the fraction actually converts to 0.125. You would get that by dividing 1 divided by 8. You could do that on a 4-function calculator to get that decimal. The hundredths place is 2 place values to the right of the decimal, and the 5 value in the thousands makes it round up. So you would round up the 5, which is how you get 0.13. Okay. Question number 9 is another real-world math problem. It says that a patient's fever is 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Convert the temperature to the Celsius scale. So again, not only do you need to know your conversions between standard and metric, you do also need to know the formula to convert between Fahrenheit and Celsius to Fahrenheit. So I'm going to give you guys a second here to answer this correctly. The answer is A, 39 degrees Celsius. I'm just going to zoom in here so you guys can see the formula. So essentially, in order to get C for Celsius, the equation you would use is 5/9 parentheses F, which stands for Fahrenheit, minus 32. And then you would simplify, and you would multiply. The answer is 38.8 degrees, and you would round that up, which is how you get 39 degrees Celsius. Okay, question number 10. This is addition and subtraction of fractions. A pizza shop sells individual pizza slices throughout the day in addition to whole pizza orders. The shop sells 3/8 of a cheese pizza, 3/8 of a pepperoni pizza, and 2/5 of a specialty pizza. How many pizzas did they sell in individual slices? Okay, the answer is B, 1 and 3/20. Here is another ratio, proportions, and percentages question. What is 32 out of 160 as a percent? We have a really awesome TEAS math tutoring session that we're going to link to in the description below. It's a tutoring session with our subject matter expert, Ashley, who actually spends about an hour going over ratio, proportions, and percentages question tips, multiple ways of finding solutions, how to confirm your answer is correct. It's really informative. People really love Ashley. She explains things in a way that's really logical, in a way that's really easy to understand. So that's super important. So the correct answer here is actually B, 20%. So in this problem, a proportion was set up. The solution is 20% because 32 over 160 equals x over 100. And when you cross multiply the 32 and the 100, and then you divide by 160, you get x, which ends up being 20. Two friends got the same percentage of math questions right on their tests. One friend got 96 questions correct out of 120 questions. If the second friend took an exam with only 75 questions, how many did she answer correctly? The answer is C, 60. She answered 60 questions out of 75 correctly. So friend number one has 96 questions correct out of 120, which equals X over 75. 75 is the amount of questions that was on the second friend's test. So we do 96 times 75, we divide that by 120, and then we solve for X, which ends up being 60. Okay, this is an equation with one variable. Solve the equation for the unknown. So here you are solving for X. And the correct answer to this is C. So this is a very simple standards of operation in order to solve for X. So here you would need, in order to get the solution for the variable, you need to isolate it. So you need to subtract 3 from each side, which will leave you with 4x equals 5. And then from there, you need to divide both sides of the equation by 4, which gives you 5 over 4. This says multiply 4 over 5 by 1 over 5. The correct answer is A, 4 over 25. Okay, next question. The following circle graph shows what a family spends their income on each month. If the family earns $6,500 a month, how much money are they spending on their bills? Again, the problem states the family earns $6,500 a month. It wants to know how much money is spent per month on bills. The correct answer is D, $1,625. So you would have to look at this graph and you would have to be able to dissect it. So here you can see that bills says that it takes up 25%. So you would take the total monthly income, which is $6,500, multiply that by 25%, which you get here from the graph, which gives you $1,625. Okay. Here is one of those new T7 question types that are new. As you can see here, there is no A, B, C, or D. You have to fill in the blank for this question. So this is a real world math problem, and it says a homeowner is renovating their kitchen and needs 75 square feet of tile for the backsplash. The tile contractor requires a 15% overage of tiles to complete the job. How many square feet of tile does the homeowner need to purchase? Okay. The answer is 86.25. Now, in this particular case, it's not asking you to round or anything like that, so you need to be sure that you are putting in the total and the accurate solution when you're solving for this. So you calculate the overage by multiplying the required amount of tile by the overage. So it requires 75 feet. The contractor requires 15%, which is 0.15 written out as a decimal. So if you do 75 times 0.15, you're going to get 11.25. And then you just need to add this to what you already need to get, which is the 75 square feet. So 11.25 plus 75 is how you get 86.25. A yield sign in the shape of a triangle has a base length of 90 centimeters and a height of 80 centimeters. What is the area in square centimeters? Now, this goes back to some of the things that you need to know for the T7. You do need to know your conversions. You need to know your formulas for Fahrenheit to Celsius and vice versa. You also need to know your formulas for determining things like surface area, volume, and you need to know how to do this for a few different geometric shapes, such as a circle, triangles, square, rectangles, and etc. Okay. If you said the answer is B, 3,600, you would be correct. So, just like anytime we're solving for a particular variable, in this case, we are solving for area. The formula for area is A for area equals 1/2 of the base multiplied by the height. So B is for base, H is for height. So if you know that formula, then this problem is probably a piece of cake for you because all you need to do is plug in the variables, which is how you get 3,600 square meters. Okay, next question. Another word problem. Trisha put $1,800 down on a new car and she paid $375 a month for 6 years. How much did Trisha spend in total for her car? Okay. The correct answer is A, 28,800. So how did we get this? So Trisha paid $375 for 72 months total because there are 12 months in a year. We know that she paid every month for 6 years. So you would do 6 divided by 12 to get the amount of months, which is how we get 72. The cost of Trisha's car, then in order to get the cost of Trisha's car, you have to write out an equation. So you would do 1,800, which was the initial down deposit, plus $375 multiplied by 72, the amount of months, which when you simplify that, you get $1,800 plus $27,000, which is how you get $28,800. Okay, another word problem. A nurse provides 0.25 liters of fluid to a recovering patient every 4 hours. The doctor wants to restrict the fluid intake and says to stop it after 1,500 milliliters. And then the doctor will check on the patient. How many times will the patient receive fluid before the doctor checks on him? The answer is B, 6. The patient will receive fluid 6 times because each dose is a quarter of a liter or 250 milliliters. So 1,500 milliliters divided by 250 milliliters equals 6 doses. Okay, here is another decimal and fractions focused question. This question says change 0.89 to a fraction. Okay, and the answer is B, 89 over 100. Okay, the question says students were surveyed about their favorite pet and the bar graph shows the results. Select the best statement for the bar graph. It wants you to select the best statement for the bar graph. The answer is B. The total number of students who prefer fish and pigs is equal to the number of people who prefer gerbils. This is just a matter of looking at the data, going through each one of these options, and seeing which is true. So for example, it would not be D because D is not the least preferred, pig is, etc. So the best way is just to read each answer choice, look at the graph, and determine if it is true or false. Okay, next question. This is equations when one variable. I'm going to give you a second to answer this question. The answer is C. The correct answer is x is greater than or equal 3 because subtracting 5 from each side of the inequality reveals that negative x is less than or equal to negative 3. And then by dividing each side of the inequality by negative 1 requires a flipped sign. Okay, this is addition and subtraction of fraction. The problem is asking you to add 2 over 7 and 1 over 10. The correct answer is A, 27 over 70. And here is the math. We partnered with the one and only Brandon Craft to create all of our video content for our math courses. So if you take a look at any of the TEAS online math courses inside of our TEAS course, you'll see that it has sometimes 1, 2, even 3 videos going over concepts, and then the narrator and the person who works out all the problems is Brandon Craft. In addition, we have the flashcards, we have the interactive questions, we have the lesson, which actually gives you all the conversions, the formulas, literally everything that you need to score really high on the TEAS 7 practice test. So if you are having a hard time with, say, conversions, fractions, if you need some refreshers, the TEAS 7 online course by Smart Addition Academy definitely will have your back. In addition, we go over all of the chemistry that's on TEAS 7, all of the A and P, all of the subjects for reading, for English. So it's a very comprehensive course. Literally everything you need to do well on the TEAS test is inside of the course. So a circular dinner plate has a diameter of 13 inches. A ring is placed along the edge of the plate. Find the circumference of the ring in inches. Use 3.14 for pi. So just as a refresher, the diameter, which is in this case is 13 inches, diameter is the length across the center of a circle, and circumference is the perimeter or the distance around the circle, because the radius measures only halfway across. So twice the radius equals the diameter, if that makes sense. So the correct answer for this question is B, 40.82. So again, this is that formula that I was talking about. Circumference equals pi multiplied by diameter, which equals, in this case, to 3.14, which the problem told us. And diameter, you would fill in as 13 inches because they told us the value of that variable, which gives us 40.82. The next question, we're going back to the multiplication and division of fractions. The problem wants you to divide 3 over 10 multiplied by 1 over 7. The correct answer is A, 3 over 70. Okay, here's another equations with one variable. Solve the equation for the unknown. It says A minus 10 equals negative 20. The correct answer to this is negative 10, B. So in order to isolate the variable A, you would actually want to add 10 to each side of the equation, which would give you A equals negative 10. Here's another triangle question. A right triangular prism has a triangular base with legs of 5 centimeters and 12 centimeters and a hypotenuse of 13 centimeters. What is the surface area in square centimeters if the height is 2 centimeters? I'm going to give you guys one more second here to answer this question. Okay, so the answer is actually B, 120. Okay, so like I was just saying, you have to plug in or substitute the values into the formula and then simplify using the order of operations. So To find out the surface area of a triangle, remember, you are looking for the product of half the base times the height, and that looks something like A equals 1 over 2 BH. And that gives you 120 square centimeters. It says a candy shop charges 50 cents a piece, knowing it costs 22 cents to make. The shop also has other costs to the business that total $4,200 a month. Select the equation that would represent how many pieces of candy, C, the shop would make if the candy shop were to break even in operational costs for the month. Okay, the answer is C. Okay, and this is actually a tricky one. So if you got C, awesome. If you didn't get C, again, no shame in the game. So it says the candy shop makes 28 cents. If you're wondering where the 28 came from, it's the 28 cents of profit for each piece of candy after accounting for the cost to make them. So again, it's 50 cents a piece, costs 22 cents to make it. 50 minus 22 is 28. That's how much money they make per piece of candy. And since the business has $4,200 worth of operational costs a month, 28 cents per piece of candy minus 4,200 equals 0 would be the break-even point for the company. And that's how you would have to write down that problem. Okay, addition and subtraction of fractions. A seamstress has 3/5 of a box of buttons left in her kit. And after doing some mending, she used the rest of the box along with 1/4 of another. If both boxes contained 200 buttons when they were originally bought, how many buttons did the seamstress use for her recent mending? The seamstress used 170 buttons because 3/5 of a box of 200 is 120. 1/4 of a box of 200 is 50. So altogether, that's 120 plus 50 to get you 170 buttons. Okay. A pharmacist writes a prescription for his patient for 200 milligrams, but the pharmacy technician only has the medicine available in grams. How many grams will the pharmacy technician need to fill the order? So we're going back to word problems and we're going back to conversions. You need to know how many milligrams are in a gram. Okay, so the correct answer for this is C, 0.2 grams. And that is because, again, you need to know how many milligrams are in a gram. There is 1,000 milligrams in 1 gram. So you would set up a proportion, solve for x, which would give you that 0.2. Okay, guys, home stretch. We're almost done with this TEAS 7 math test. Okay. Equations with one variable. Solve for the value of y when x equals 3. Okay, the answer is A, 11. So what you need to do for this problem is you need to substitute x with 3, and then you need to use the standard of operations to solve for this. Then you get 11. Okay, multiplication and division of fraction. The question is saying 3 over 4 divided by 1 over 2. And the right answer is D, 1 1/2, or 1.5. And if you're wondering how that was done, it's 1 1/2 because when you multiply 3 over 4 and 2 over 1, you get 6 over 4. And then when you turn this into a mixed number, you get 1 and 2 over 4. And then when you simplify that, you get 1 1/2, or 1.5, if you were to turn it into a decimal. Okay, next question. The line chart shows the number of cars sold each month. Which statement is true? Okay. I'm going to adjust my screen size here so you can see everything, and then I'm also going to read it out loud. So the top of the line graph says cars sold by month, and then it shows the graph. It starts in January, going all the way down to December. And then option A says June had the most cars sold. B says there were 2 months where 30 cars were sold. The months with the smallest decreases all sold 5 fewer cars. Or D, the difference between the highest and the lowest month is 30 cars. According to this line graph, which is true? Okay, the right answer is actually C. The months with the smallest decreases all sold 5 cars fewer. So basically there was a decline of 5 cars from January to February, June to July, and November to December. And you can kind of see that here. So January they were 20, February they were 15, that's -5. In the month of June, they had 45. In the month of July, they had 40, that's -5. In the month of November, they had 25. In the month of December, they had 20, that's -5. Last question. Now, we already saw an example of one of the new types of answer types that you'll see on the T7, which was that fill in the blank from a few questions ago. What you're looking at here is actually what they're calling an ordered response question. So in this case, you're going to get a set of numbers, and you're going to have to order them according to this question from least to greatest. It's not always going to be from least to greatest, but for this particular question, it is. So I'm going to give you a few seconds here to calculate these and to order them from least to greatest. And then we'll go over the answer. Okay, so the first thing I want to point out is that 2 of these numbers in this set actually are negative numbers. So I hope that that is something that you caught. And in this case, the least is actually going to be negative 4 over 5. Remember, with negative numbers, the bigger the negative number is, the least it actually is. It's kind of like an overdrawn bank account. You would rather be, if you were negative 0.8 overdrawn versus negative 0.125 overdrawn, that would basically mean you're either negative 80 cents or negative 12 cents. And being negative 80 cents is it means you have least amount of money. I know that can sometimes be confusing. And I know with a test like this, where there's a lot of pressure, there's a time taking, you do want to just, simmer down, take a breath, think, because little things like that will trick you and could cause you to get the answer wrong. So in this case, the least amount is negative 4 over 5, followed by negative 1 over 8. Then it's going to be 2 over 8, because when we convert that to a decimal, you get 0.25, followed by 4 over 12, which when you convert that to a decimal, you get 0.3333. Lastly, the greatest number of this set is 15 over 16, because that gets you 0.93. And then, as you can see here, the results are populating now. And in the beginning of the video, I kind of talked about how cool it is that you can actually see the categories and the topics, because the biggest thing that we get, like in our free TEAS study group, or like in the DMs on Instagram, things like that, people are like, well, math is my worst subject, like help. And then the first thing we ask them is, okay, what specifically within math? Because if you just say, well, I need to study for the TEAS, I don't know anything, you can get really overwhelmed really quickly. So we always say, take a practice test first. Before you buy anything, before you pick up a book, before you start making flashcards, before all of that, take a free practice test. Again, there's one linked below, and then you're going to take your practice test. And at the end of the practice test, what you're going to get is something like this, where it's going to show you exactly how you did. So, for example, pretend that I did not get everything 100% right. It would say something like 32% on polynomials, or 54% on ratios, proportions, and percentages, but 100% on word problems, 100% on standards of measure, 90% on circles. Then I would say, help, I need to get better at polynomials and ratios, proportions, and percentages. And I know that that's where I need to focus on, so that way I can boost my score. So, and what you're seeing here on the left-hand side of the screen, this is just some of the practice tests. And then, like I said, we have practice test questions that we have divided by topic. So if I wanted to answer 50 questions all about polynomials, I would be able to do that inside of the TEAS online course. And then, as well as, I can go back to those lessons. I can go to math. I can go to the lesson on polynomials. I can watch the Brandon Craft videos. I can go through the lessons. I can go through the flashcards. Then I can come back and take a specific quiz all about polynomials, like I was just saying, and then I can see like if I'm getting a little bit better of it. So that's what we recommend. That's why these diagnostic practice tests are so important. Pay attention to these. We also do have a free TEAS study planner that I'm going to link below. I know I'm just throwing everything at you guys, so bear with me here. So the TEAS study planner below actually shows you, well, it actually kind of walks you through this process, I should say, of what we just talked about. Taking a practice test first, looking at your diagnostic report, looking at your weaknesses and your strengths, taking note of that, taking note of when you took the test, and then we actually have a weekly and monthly breakdown of when you can kind of fill in and you can plan out your studying. And then there's a few pages in there. We actually give you 3 months worth of sheets, so to speak, and then it's free, so you can download it as many times as you want. But basically, you'll be able to go back and we have like a tracking system where you just have to print it out, plug it in, we made it all for you. So if you guys are interested in that, that's our free TEAS study planner. It's also linked below. I know that this video was long, guys, but I hope that it was awesome for you. I hope you got some value out of some of the tips about the calculator, the topics, the differences between T6 and T7. So let me know in the comments how you're feeling about the T7 math part of the exam. Just let me know when your study it is, and let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you want me to review everything. Again, this is Smart Edition Academy. We have a free practice test. TEAS study planner. We have a free Facebook group. We've got a ton of stuff to help you pass the TEAS. So go scroll down right now, go down to the link in the description below, and pretty much take all the links, open them all up, bookmark them, share them with a friend, and then we'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Bye.